What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Vandy Blitz. We got a lot to talk about, so we're gonna get right into it. Jumping into March Madness. Let's start it off. I mean, we're looking at the bracket right now, our bracket group. I don't know if you guys joined it or not, but your boy Joe Angela is second place in the bracket, 99.6 percentage. You can't touch me. I don't even know where you guys are, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, Joe's killing it right now. Got to give a shout out to Makani Mania right now. He's in first place with Houston. I'm really excited. We have Houston and Baylor in the Final Four. What? These two Texas teams that aren't basketball schools. I mean, the way Baylor moved the ball last night was insane. Arkansas had no chance, and Houston has a great shooting performance. Other than their small upset or small victory over Rutgers they shouldn't have had. But since then, they've been killing it. What have your thoughts been since we last had our episode with March Madness? Who's your team been? Mine has been Baylor. What about you guys?
Yeah, I've been riding Baylor. I've been riding the Baylor wave for. I think that was the pick that I took. I actually forgot to join the bracket, but I was in another bracket, so I have Baylor. I've been riding the Baylor wave. I also agree with Joe. I disagree with you, Wolf. I think Baylor is a basketball school, so I don't know where you got that from. But
Houston usually isn't that.
Houston, no, definitely not. And I was watching the game yesterday, and they they had a big rise in the 70s, I believe it was, and then dropped off significantly and have been consistently working their way back up from then on out. And now they look really, really good, honestly. I mean, they had that sketchy game against Rutgers where I didn't know if they were going to win. And then they pulled it out and convinced me pretty significantly yesterday. So yeah, I'd say I'm taking Baylor as of now, but Houston is definitely going to be some tough opposition for them.
Yeah, looking at my bracket, I also took Baylor as my main team. I'm not doing quite as well as Joe. I got 77%, which isn't bad. What's that? Anywho, it's very interesting what's going on in March Madness right now. I really believed in Ohio State before, so it's really interesting to see how they just got beat so early. And then now we do have Baylor and Houston that we know are in the Final Four. I think Baylor still takes that one, and then Gonzaga and USC are playing like right now. So we got some interesting basketball ahead of us in college, and then there's also a lot of interesting stuff going on in the NBA. But before we move there, I want to make sure that everybody gets to say their piece about March Madness. So what's up?
Yeah, let me
Gonzaga's winning it all. Go ahead, Jacob.
No, actually, Joe, thank you for giving that to me, because I was going to say something very similar. Like, we have talked about college basketball on this show for like pretty frequently the past couple of weeks. And like I've said over and over how strong Gonzaga is as a team this year. I second guessed myself when I was filling out my bracket and had Illinois going all the way. But I'm back on the Zaga bandwagon. I think that like they just have the easiest path. Like, they haven't played a good team up to this point. Like, you guys know how we feel about Creighton, and now they're going up against a 6 seed USC, and I think the first good game we'll see from them is going to come in the Final Four. So I'm really excited to see about that. And I'm excited to see who of you guys wins our bracket challenge and gets our Vandy Blitz hoodie, because we're really excited to show those off to you soon.
Agreed, Jacob. Gonzaga has been just showing a very, very strong performance so far during this tournament. Strong program, strong team, strong coaching. Overall, there's just no real reason to bet against these guys, especially because they won by 18, 16, and like 40. Like, these guys have been
close. And this game against USC, obviously, the game hasn't finished. They're up 7-0. So like,
they're up 7-2. 7-2. Yeah, with about 17 minutes left in the first, so I wouldn't say that's indicative yet. But I agree. I think Gonzaga is going to take that game as well. And then we also have a really interesting game coming up later with Michigan and UCLA. I think Michigan takes that one. I think Gonzaga and Michigan matched up in the Final Four. I think Gonzaga wins that one. I think Baylor beats Houston. And I think we have a 1-seed national championship. which is really entertaining, but that Gonzaga eventually wins. However, there is a flip side to what Jacob was saying about their lack of competition thus far. These close games do rile up teams, give them some energy, and bring them up to the intensity of the tournament. So, if Gonzaga's blowing out all these teams, what happens to their morale when they get in a really close game with a number one seed that's been in these close games throughout the tournament? Like that's something to consider. So while I have Baylor as my championship pick right now in our bracket, there is uncertainty. Obviously, I'm not 100% sure Baylor wins. I don't think it's a terrible bet, but I'm not 100% sure. I think Gonzaga has a good chance, especially from what they've shown. But it's still up in the air, and this is still March Madness. Anything could happen. UCLA could end up winning later today, beat Gonzaga, and beat Houston in the national championship. For all I know, even think that's unlikely. It could happen. It
really is crazy to think that a team has an ability to all season long, Gonzaga's closest game was in the WCC championship, I believe, against BYU, or was it the semifinal against St. Mary's? Either one, that was the only time it was somewhat of a close game, and then they ended up still winning by 10. So it's honestly just crazy to think that a team could go a whole season and into the postseason and just steamroll the whole way through. Then again, they have a lot easier competition in the WCC compared to other conferences.
But even when they played Iowa and Kansas, those games weren't close at the beginning of the season. I just want to quickly go. Sorry, Joe. I just wanted to add this. I want to quickly go to the Baylor-Houston. Houston's defense versus Syracuse in the Sweet 16 cannot be slept on. They won by 18 points and had them score 48, or was it 42? 46 points. And I still think, like you said, Gonzaga's too overpowered. I see them winning it all. But I see Gonzaga, Michigan, and that's the game to watch next week.
I hope it's not Michigan.
I have no basis for saying this whatsoever, and I'm not basing it off of this season, but I feel like not Baylor. Gonzaga is always up there. They're always a 1 seed or a 2 seed. And then they find a way to lose one of these Elite
But it's
Eight,
never like this.
Final Four games. It is never like this. And like I'm saying, I don't have any basis to say this. And they have looked insanely good at every single position. Their starting five is an elite tier starting five in college basketball. It just is. But I don't know. Just knowing the program and how things have gone in previous years with the Gonzaga basketball team, I just think they might find a way to lose one of these games that, everyone's oh, it's Gonzaga for sure. That, it might slip up and lose a game. Like you guys were saying, the pressure when the game gets close, who knows?
So what do you think what's the score of Gonzaga at a championship level versus Houston Rockets on any given night?
They're getting destroyed.
Yeah,
They're getting destroyed.
Yeah.
I hate
It's
that
not
argument.
even
Any G League team would beat Gonzaga. Any G League team would beat Gonzaga.
Yeah, this is just – I think Theo makes a strong point because although we've seen dominance and we can ascribe, success to that dominance and say, yeah, they've proved themselves. This team has obviously separated themselves from the rest of college basketball. You still have to win the tournament. You still have to play. And we also probably thought that. I thought Kansas was going to be a lot better. I just did. I thought Kansas was going to play a lot better. I thought Illinois was going to be a lot better. There's a lot of teams that have let me down. So I don't know how you can – every step, every game in this entire tournament is a coin flip because on any given night, anyone can win. That's what makes it so entertaining. That's why no one has ever had a perfect bracket. And that's why even with how dominant Gonzaga has been, you can't be certain. And I don't even think you can be confident. I think you can just be kind of confident guessing the national championship of March Madness. You know what I mean?
Gonzaga, what's different about this year is they have a star power and a blueprint they've never seen before. They never had individual guys come out of high school this highly talented like a Jalen Suggs. And he's not even their best player. I forget who the best player is, the forward. But I forget his name. But my point is
I would say Jalen Suggs is the best player.
Okay, exactly. Gonzaga has individual stars, and that's a different blueprint than they usually were known as teams that really worked well together and they were very cohesive and they're the same, but now they actually have those highly touted recruits from high school. That's
I don't
why
know, dude. I saw
they're a
Baylor
different team.
playing pretty good basketball against Arkansas. Some of their guys stepping up at the end of the game.
Sure,
That
they're
team has
good.
really good spacing, really good passing. They were hitting their 3-point shots. Obviously,
It feels
Houston
good.
is no team to be slept on. And then Michigan, who I think is going to win this UCLA game, is no bum team either. They're a number 1 seed that could absolutely be capable of beating Gonzaga, but that's just my thoughts. But who knows? They're probably going to win.
The only reason that I don't take exception to what you said, Wacker. I more agree with Wilf in that, like, when you watch the Gonzaga games, the pace of the game is based around how Jalen Suggs wants to play. Like, he controls the game. He's a extremely talented player. They also have other individuals like Tilly, like who else? Kispert. They have other 3 or 4 players who are most likely going to be in the league within the next few years. Like, the individual talent that you see with this team
It's different.
is very, I agree with you, is different than what we've seen in previous years. And I think that I'm going to go back on my previous statement. I think that maybe the fact that they do have that individual talent will allow them to make that further step. Because at the end of the day, I think college basketball, you definitely do need that X factor on your team, or those 2 X factors on your team. Like, you guys, you can play as well as you want as a team, but if you don't have that one guy who can take over the game at the end and score buckets when you need them, like we saw in the Oregon State game, they didn't have that one guy who could finish the game off. They didn't have that guy who could make those buckets at the end of the game.
That's why they lost by 5.
And it made a huge difference. I just think I really agree with Wolf's point in that, like, if you have that one killer on your team.
Maybe. You know, is it wrong that us gassing Gonzaga right now is really making me not want to have them win? Now I'm going to say I really want Baylor to win.
It's just like Gonzaga is the argument saying Gonzaga hasn't been there is not valid, because this is a different Gonzaga team that we've seen in the past 6 years.
Yeah.
Jacob, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's no, I agree completely. Like, it's not like a pro team where the same players are choking late in games. Like, it's a completely new team, and I agree. Just if you look at the history of these undefeated teams, there's always one player Bill Walton, not Bill Walton. I don't know, just some of the guys that have had undefeated seasons. Gonzaga is up there. They have the pieces this year.
It'd be really cool if they could pull it off, honestly. I'm rooting for them,
Virginia
obviously.
that'd be cool.
I'm rooting for them for the financial gain a lot as well, but is that funny?
It was a fake laugh. It was a fake laugh.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I'm definitely rooting for them for the financial gain, but at the same time, don't you guys want to see
more
something
exact
that's
right now, by the way.
never been done before? Wouldn't you think that'd be cool to see that, or what are your guys' thoughts? Are you guys against?
It would be cool to see that. However, I don't think that this isn't the same team. You can't say that they haven't been here before. Argument is, I get it.
Wacker,
Let me respond. Let me just respond. Let me just respond. I've been hearing at least a lot of saying you can't judge this Gonzaga team by the past Gonzaga teams. You can't judge them by the past years, which is true. But you also can't judge this team that's never been through the tournament. I guess you can. You can say this is all the sample size we have. This is a tournament performing undefeated team. However, I don't know. I think you can't. If you're going to argue you can't judge this team based off of the past of this program, I'm going to say you can't ascribe much to this team because they're unproven at the same time. I guess they're proven in that they've gone undefeated, but they haven't won the tournament as a lot of other programs have. Maybe I'm talking in circles. I'm just trying to grapple with the logic of this isn't the same Gonzaga team, and I'm not sure if that's convincing for me.
Yeah, and one point that I would like to add on to that, Wacker, I also am talking in huge circles. I keep going back on my previous statements, but I just want to lay out all the facts and just make sure that people know where we're coming from in terms of yes, Gonzaga's a good team, but they also have this, blah, blah. Anyway, my point is They play in the Pac-12, right?
No,
No.
some shittier conference.
That's what I was about to say. Like, they play in a conference where there's
WCC,
competition.
West Coast Conference.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know the teams besides Gonzaga. I don't know the other teams. Like,
It's
they're
because there's not good teams.
They're not coming into this tournament with a 32-0 record. That's in the Big Ten. That's in the ACC. That's in the Pac-12. That's in the Big 12. They're not in one of those top 5 like divisions, and they're not playing good teams in and out week in week. So like,
But they do play good teams though, like in general, like because you're not just playing within the conference. And Wolf spoke to that. Like, think about it. They beat Iowa convincingly. They beat Kansas convincingly.
Virginia
Iowa
too.
never proved anything to me. Kansas was never that good.
Iowa was the 9 seed, dude.
Yeah, but I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, I think competition-wise, if they're coming out of like a Big Ten where they're playing Iowa, Maryland, Iowa State, I already said Iowa, Purdue, Illinois, whatever, on a more frequent basis, I just think that's more grounds for saying like, oh, this team has proven a little bit more than being in a conference.
You're right.
Yeah, and I'm one.
Like,
I'm one that thinks it. I'm one that thinks it's more important, like the adversity a team has faced. Like, I understand maybe like this team's undefeated, but talking about the division, like their record might not be necessarily representative of their strength as a team, because there's probably other teams that could have performed really well in their similar scenario. Maybe not as well, but
let me get in right here, like, because I understand that argument, but these are like Division I like athletes, like they're good basketball players, and like they're beating these guys by like 40 points like every other week. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, I don't care what team, like they're not winning 112-60. Like, that doesn't happen anywhere with any other
maybe
team.
you're right. Maybe the problem is we're just talking about it so much that we're all realizing that we're incredibly confused on what's coming up in the future, because it's impossible to fucking. So with that being said, I think you guys are scatterbrained thoughts on Gonzaga in the tournament to some degree. I want to talk about NBA basketball. You want to make one more point, Joe? Okay, go ahead.
One thing. Like, I just want to know, like, as a vote among like this podcast, like, if Gonzaga did play Rutgers, like, we think they 30 piece, like, win by at least 30, or like a little.
They win by 50.
50. They're winning by 50.
Bro, Rutgers almost
yeah.
went to the Sweet 16. Their point guard couldn't handle the ball, and they lost by 1 point.
Damn, your point guard
almost.
They were up 10 with 5 minutes left.
Rutgers' problem.
Oh,
All right, that was great.
Ron Harper kind of boned it at the end there, but
Whacked at it. Let's give it
that's
to you.
for another day.
No, that's a good thought. I think Gonzaga would definitely dominate the shit out of Rutgers. That's
we get it. You don't like Rutgers, all right?
Classic everyone hating in Jersey. All right, whacked at it. What were you going to say?
I want to talk about Drummond. Drummond on the Lakers, Lamarcus, Blake on the Nets. I mean, we've kind of had this situation where we thought, oh, the Lakers, the Nets, these are the powerhouses in the league right now. I personally think that the Jazz are also a really good team, but that's not even part of this conversation. I just had to throw it in. You know me. But now we sort of have these two giants solidified atop the NBA. And I don't know, like, what does this change things for you guys? Do you see now a Lakers-Nets championship? Do you think Lamarcus Aldridge is a difference maker? I personally don't think let's start with the Lakers, actually. So Drummond, let me just get my thoughts, and then I'll pass it to you, Andrew. Drummond on the Lakers, I honestly don't think makes as big an impact as a lot of people think. I think it's a less impactful signing than even Dennis Schroeder. I think he's going to bring some great paint protection. However, they already had that with a healthy Anthony Davis. Going to bring some good rebounding. They already had that with a healthy Anthony Davis. They had Dwight to pick up the slack a little bit last year as well. Andre Drummond is a statistical beast. However, technically, he misses a lot of shots. He goes for a lot of defensive blocks and plays that maybe, sacrifice some buckets and don't maximize efficiency. And while he's a good player, I don't think he's a great player, or certainly not one that elevates a championship-level team even further. I think he's just coming in to play his role as a rebounder and a big-man defender here when they match up against double big-man teams, and if AD wants to play as power forward. And I don't really think this shakes up the West or or that conversation with the Lakers that much. And then, Will, if you want to say something about this, and then we'll hear everybody's thoughts.
This is a very rare occasion me and Ethan agree on something. I think this is great for publicity, great for Instagram, and great for selling some reduced 10% capacity tickets. My thoughts about this is it's cool. It's big names. It's like a Deshaun Jackson going to the Rams. It's like, cool. Oh, yay, Instagram. It doesn't do shit for winning a championship. What helps winning the Nets winning a championship is Joe Harris and his shooting. What helps the Lakers is Dennis Schroeder and his facilitation. Not these big names. Yeah, they're cool. Blake Griffin's great, but he's not the 2014 Blake Griffin.
Let's stay on the Lakers before we move to the Nets.
No, but I'm saying with the Lakers, Drummond's not the same. And what I was saying with the Nets, Blake Griffin's not the same. It's the same idea where it's just like they're really big names. They're going to be the ones on the TNT pregame picture, but they're not actually going to be the top 6 or 7 player on the team.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I don't know. I don't know about all of that. Like I think
I'd say Andrew just kind of took. Sorry, one thing, Jacob. I just want to make sure that people.
Yeah.
I don't think Drummond is not a top 6 player on the team. I just don't think he elevates the team. I think he is probably still going to be getting 25, 27 plus minutes a game, logging some good stats, and being
totally
top 4 player on the team, top 5 player on the team. In terms of impact, though, I might agree with you, Andrew, actually, the more I think about it. Sorry to interrupt, Jacob. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're all good. I agree with you guys. I mean, Andre Drummond's still he's a really talented player. I just when you're looking at a team and especially a team like the Lakers who are going to compete late into the summer, that Andre Drummond doesn't fill a hole on that roster. And that's kind of the big thing that I'm thinking about. They did not need Andre Drummond. That doesn't put them over the edge. When I'm looking at trades, I'm looking at Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets, Oladipo to the Heat, these guys that are really gonna change the way that a team is playing. But I don't see Drummond really changing the game plan of the Lakers. They're still feeding Davis. LeBron's still on ball. I don't think Andre Drummond really changes much.
I think it's a
and I don't think that this puts the Lakers over the Jazz. Go on.
Okay.
Think about it. Think about this though. It's a versatility thing. You have Drummond. Essentially, the Lakers are playing great as they are now. And I think they'll end up making the finals. But that's another topic to have. But I think that Drummond just adds a versatility aspect that if you can match up, and I think it's all about matchups in this league. And if you have a guy like Drummond that you can use at your disposal, that's just what they need right now. I think they're at a level that it's a lot of other teams.
Yes, I could see that matchup conversation, but I mean, these guys were already prepared for matchups. They had Marc Gasol, who arguably is a better defender. He might be getting old, but Drummond is not very quick on his feet right now either. Drummond in Cleveland, he was getting the boards, getting some shots, but he wasn't doing anything that was very impressive either. I just wasn't. I'm not really impressed by. He doesn't stand out to me as someone that's a strength matchup player. He to me now, as the NBA has evolved, has just become kind of an average center in the league who can rebound at an above average rate. And that's what Andre Drummond is right now. And I think that's what he'll be on this Lakers team as well, filling that Dwight Howard role.
Do you think he was brought in because what is AD's timeline in terms of his injury? Was he brought in to fill that out, or was he brought in as more of I guess what you're trying to say is he's more of a role player kind of backup center?
I think he's definitely brought in to play alongside AD because AD's injury, I don't see it. I'm not 100% sure of the timeline, but I don't think it's stretching into the playoffs. But anyway, I mean, if anybody has any more conclusions about this Lakers team, let's talk about them now. But I do want to move to the Nets. I also think it's really interesting to mention Dennis Schroeder just declined a 4-year, $84 million extension from the Lakers. So looks like he's leaving, and that might have some implications on how the lock is there and maybe the cohesion of that potential.
And I just want to add, LeBron and AD, they're coming from injury. I think what happened was Drummond probably thought, what's the best option for me? Probably got offered more money at other places. And with the Lakers, like we said, it doesn't elevate them that much, but it doesn't hurt. And they're just trying to compete with the Jazz and the Sixers and the Nets, and that's their best chance, just adding more talent. You're not going to get a player at this time of the year that's going to elevate your team even more.
That's true. You can criticize this move. That's a really, really good point, Andrew. You could say this doesn't elevate them, blah, 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 but, like, what's the opportunity cost? A roster spot where you have, like, a bench warmer that never plays.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. I guess
probably not even cut anyone.
Like that.
They'll probably just not cut anyone and just add the extra guy. Like, we're being real. Or is that like a mandatory thing?
Good for depth, yeah.
I think it's a mandatory thing when you sign someone from waivers or something. You have to either send someone to the G League. You're only allowed to have like 14 or 15 roster spots.
But that 15 guys not seeing themselves in the court. So.
All right, well, really quickly, let's get into a little bit of drama before we talk about some more basketball. It does have to do with basketball, though.
And the Nets, too.
KD.
Yo, this is the highlight of my sports viewership of like the week. I love this story so much.
Is KD homophobic? Is KD misogynistic? Is he all of the above? Well, if you look at the DMs, I think you could confidently say the third option. Looking at KD's DMs with Michael Rappaport, known troll on the internet, also like kind of funny guy, kind of
hilarious.
Like, yeah, I mean, I know Wilf would definitely find him like really funny.
So would you, bro.
No, I think he's a funny guy. Anyways, shared his DM basically between him and KD, and it's pretty hostile stuff. I think it's a classic case of kind of like screenshotting the bad stuff that you say to someone that you don't know. Not screenshotting the bad stuff you say to someone, but like getting all of their very like rude DMs to them. And yeah, KD was just dropping a lot of profanity and threats to Michael Rappaport, but apparently they kind of go back and forth like this a lot, like before this actually happened. KD issued like a really, really weak apology, and I don't really know how like Portnoy has to play into this, but somehow he does. I don't really get the full situation.
So the situation is Portnoy is being sued by Rappaport because he roasted him, and Rappaport is accusing him of defamation of character. Which overall, Rappaport, like, I think he's a funny guy too. He's being a pussy. Dude, imagine posting those DMs. Like, you're being a pussy.
Oh, totally.
I don't care who you are. Even if you get DM'd, even if it's Kevin Durant DMing you, show that to your friends, whatever. But you resolve it by posting it on your fucking Instagram. Like, what a joke of the handling of the situation. And I actually understand KD's angst towards him because he's obviously poking the bear for attention. Obviously. Like, clearly.
No, yeah, and I also think
he's like
the Portnoy thing
This
is
is what happens when we record over Zoom, guys. The Wi-Fi presents some irregularities. Go ahead, Wilf and Theo go first, and then Jacob, you follow that.
No, I was just gonna make a quick point on the Portnoy thing. I actually it's stepping out of the sports realm really quick, but I think he's a hilarious guy, and I think that he gets a lot of shit for like being kind of basically he just says what he thinks and does what he wants to, and a lot of people take offense to that nowadays. But I think it's good. I think it keeps the world a little more real. And I also think that, like you've been saying, Wacker, like Rappaport is a bit of is what you would call tissue paper. Like, the guy's soft. Like, if you're gonna get roasted, like, stuff is gonna happen if you're a public image. Like, people are obviously gonna take exception to anything you do. So I don't know. Jacob, go ahead.
But yeah, like Rappaport is just trying to like get some of Kevin Durant's like name recognition. Just like he's just trying to like get that publicity, and that's how it looks from my point of view. I think it's like pretty ridiculous. Obviously, like Durant should not have said those things. Like, you cannot say those things, especially to like the media. Like, someone who you know is like going to do something with that information. I don't know. I just think overall it's a pretty ridiculous story.
I honestly just
but
I think
definitely entertaining.
Yeah, I think the way to look at it is like entertainment. This is just part of the sports media world. if you get mad at Kevin Durant for using that profanity, like, sure, you have the right to be offended, but at the same time, he has the right to insult that guy in whatever way he wants. You could take it up with Kevin Durant if you have an issue. But talking about Kevin Durant more and the Nets, I just want to move quickly to talk about Lamarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin. So Blake Griffin, like you see on Instagram, sort of the sports media conversation too, they're all like, posting his like one pass and like couple points every game, and everybody in the comments is like, wow, Blake really bamboozled Detroit, like the Nets are stacked. And then they sign Aldridge and they're like, wow, this is unfair, veto this trade, remember the Chris Paul trade. And I'm like, guys, like this is a similar situation to Drummond, where the Nets actually did need big man depth, but Blake is not that rim protector that makes a difference with like next to James Harden and these perimeter guys. And like, I don't think Lamarcus is either. These are both guys past their primes that are more like known to be big names that lead their teams. And they basically came to the Nets on minimums to play a role and get a ring. That's it. So I don't think this is going to dramatically enhance the Nets' chances of winning the title either. That's just the rhetoric that's going around, because these guys used to be all-stars, used to be big names that led their teams, brought 20 points per game, brought a bunch of boards, brought good blocks, exciting stuff like that. But they just aren't bringing that anymore, and they're definitely not bringing that to this team, even if they are capable. If I think Lamarcus is still capable of averaging 17 to 19 points a game. He's not going to do that on this team, because he's not going to have the ball, because Kyrie, KD, and James Harden are still definitely the potent weapons that bring this team to a championship and win it for them. The difference makers are not Blake Griffin and Lamarcus Aldridge here, and that's just my thoughts there, briefly.
And I think Blake Griffin and Lamarcus Aldridge are good additions, but Andre Drummond, like with the Lakers, makes more of an impact, and the Nets have more depth in my opinion.
Wait, hold on.
No.
Does Drummond to the Lakers make more of an impact? I guess it's the same kind of conversation. Like the point stands of what you said last time. It's like, oh, well, what else they were going to do? Like, who are they going to sign at this point in the season that's better than these guys? But again, going back to impact, I don't know if Drummond makes more of an impact. I think the Lakers had their big man situation much more figured out than the Nets, personally.
Fair.
But I still think it's equatable.
I feel like between those signings, honestly, and like it's a pretty hot take of an observation, but like I would say it's honestly more of a financial impact than like actually like a player impact. And when I say financial, I mean like it just draws more attraction to the team, like more sales all around, whatever. Like, and
this
like
is media.
Like it's just and like I mean like, the thing is though, like it's just ironic because they're already the two most talked about teams in the NBA, like most likely. Like I don't know, like it's like a made up stat, but like I'd be probably willing to bet that's true. But like signings, it's just like there's a more of a media presence. Like we all know, like Blake Griffin and like Aldridge are not the same players they used to be in their prime, but like they garner the respect from their name. Same with, I mean, like Drummond is also like, I mean, he's still a great player, but like I don't think he's like, I don't know if it's that he's out of his prime or not, but like it's more about the impact that he's gonna have. But just the names, they make headlines, they make sales, and like I honestly think that it probably will be worth it in the end for them to make those signings in terms of what they will get probably out of it down the road in terms of talent and actually revenue.
Yeah.
I think that just as an NBA fan, like I've been really excited like the past couple like months because like it felt like the league was more open. Like we didn't have like a Warriors Cavs like kind of thing. Like going into the season, I thought that like anyone could win it. And obviously the Nets and the Lakers were good, but I was expecting like more competition. And like just when all of these players like signed to the same team, like it just like it makes that those powerhouses where like really like no one's going to beat the Nets in the Eastern Conference. No one's going to beat the Lakers in the West. Like I think we could just kind of lock that in right now. And like
Sixers,
it's hard.
The Sixers.
No.
Some hot takes there.
Jazz will be champions.
They're
They
not
might
hot
lose in the
takes.
championship.
In your dreams.
Dude, I swear. I'll put money on it that the Jazz are in the conference finals right now. And I think they can definitely beat any that goes to the conference finals too. They might not, but they could. Anyway, that's a totally different combo.
Oh, you said
They could beat the teams, but they might not.
No. Like, if they go against that's not the point. The point is if they go against the Lakers in the conference finals, I think Jazz could win that series in 6, but I could also see the Lakers winning that series in 6. It's basketball. It's like
Or in 4.
I don't think it's definitive either way.
you're also a biased fan.
All right,
Could be in
so
4. What
we
if
have Jazz
if
in
it's
6
4?
in the Western Conference Finals. We're locking that in.
What if Mitchell
Yo,
is
I
literally
will
actually-
crying?
Let me put
Crying. It's a 4-0 sweep.
Let me put 20 on Jazz in 6 Western Conference Finals.
And Ethan, if you're wrong, it's gonna be we'll think of like a funny punishment. And if you're
Yeah,
right,
we will.
if you're right,
No,
we'll,
okay. Well, if we're attaching a punishment to this, next episode I will come with a reasonable, like, thought-through prediction of what is going to happen. It will involve the Jazz being either in the conference finals or in the finals.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
now you're gonna backtrack.
No, I won't.
Yeah, he's backing out of it, Wacker.
Fine. You know what? Fine. You guys are totally 7. Jazz in 7, conference finals, 20. You have it here. If I miss it, we'll come up with some random punishment.
If he loses it, I'm gonna buy him a shirt that's just a picture of Donovan Mitchell like sobbing, and he'll just have to wear it around everywhere.
Okay, well, I think that concludes most of our NBA talk for today, and I think the podcast as a whole. So I just wanted to add one real quick thing, and this is like really out of the blue, but the NFL actually just announced that they're expanding to a 17-game regular season instead of 16. So that's just one more thing to look out for in the upcoming NFL season. And I'm sure we're all big football fans here. I'm sure we're all very excited for that. So.
and
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited that we get to play the Giants to get a free win at the end of our season. I think it'll help with our playoff odds. But yeah, that's thank you, bro. Like that was a really great like introduction to that point.
Good one, Joe. Good one.
But
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we are definitely all happy about that. A lot of college basketball, NBA basketball, all kinds of different stuff that we talked about today. But tonight we are going to be watching these games. We'll get our thoughts together. I'm sure we'll have a lot to say in the next episode, so make sure you don't miss it. Subscribe, like, tune in, and stay tuned on the bracket if you're in it still, to hoodie. And just like stay tuned because we might be able to facilitate hoodies and hats and stuff going to other people besides the winner of that bracket in the near future somehow. But just stay tuned, subscribe, like.
And that link will be on the YouTube. So we're going to be selling those sweatshirts and hats. They're sick. We just got them. You'll see them on our Insta story. So check that out. They're comfortable. They're warm. And they're great.
They're actually mad comfortable. Like, that's like the biggest thing about them is they're mad comfortable. They also look super sick. So I'm just happy with them overall. I'll be repping them, and I hope you will too, you guys. But anyway, this is the longest exit. Yeah. Bye, guys.
Thank you.